I'm Dr. Scott Law. Welcome to the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast. As we step into a new year, our second year of the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast, we get to look back, see where we've been, and we are thankful that you've been along with us through this journey. This episode is a collection of the 5 most impactful conversations of 2025, not because they were the loudest or the most polished, but because they were the most meaningful to us and to you. These are the ideas that our listeners came back to listen to over and over. Stories about letting go of perfection, thinking differently about how to deliver the best possible patient care, leading our teams with intention, building trust through the partnership, and the quiet power of mentorship, the kind that can change the direction of a life or a career forever. So whether this is your first time hearing these or hearing them again for the second, we hope that this episode will give you something useful and meaningful to carry in the year ahead. Let's give these moments a listen.
Were you aware you were a perfectionist?
Oh, yeah.
Like you knew it. You identified as a perfectionist. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a great thing. I took great pride in I'm better than you, better than everyone else because I'm
doing it
striving
right
for perfection, even though perfection is like the absolute lowest aim point because it's impossible. You can never get
impossible.
it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of orthodontists who struggle with that. I think it's driven in our heads, right? To be perfectionists on every single thing, and it drives us mad. But
it's how we're trained. Yeah. I mean, we're already built that way, likely as people. Yeah. That's why we're drawn to this profession. And then we're trained, it's drilled into us, it's never good enough. Keep going, keep trying, take that little 1 degree, torque that you missed. Didn't you see that,
Right. Yeah. How have you changed over time? Is it something that you seek or sought, or where are you at with it?
Yeah, the reason I asked is I don't think I identified essentially as a perfectionist. I knew that type, and they were very anal. They were very like this, and I was like, oh, I'm better than that. Like I'm not bad. And I think it was as I grew in self-awareness, which we can get into this too. But I started, personal coaching back in 2016. Yeah, and did it thinking, oh, I'm already here. I just need a little tweak. Right. And then you start waking up to all of these things. Yes. And that's where I realized, wow, I like a lot of my procrastination or a lot of my self-flagellation, like all of that's coming from a perfectionist tendency that I really didn't think I had. And so it's waking up to things and then working on those things to get through those things. And so I don't know, I have like a vision board almost in my office, like little sticky notes of things, and perfect is the enemy of the good was one that I put up a long time ago, and I see it every day. And it helps a lot actually to think of it that way, because at some point, some things just have to get done. And if you keep waiting to make them perfect, they're not going to get done, and that's worse. And so that's kind of how I think about it.
Pressure mounts, stress, you take your eye off the ball in other areas and you feel worse. Oh, I totally get it. So you have a vision board and techniques that you use. What other tools or resources do you have to approach this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I say vision board, it's actually a little mirror that has just sticky notes around it. I see all the time. Or a little, One of the other tools is I have a daily calendar, like a tear off, once a day calendar. Yeah. Every year I choose a new one about, kind of where I'm at, what I'm hoping for the new year. And so sometimes I'll take those, like their inspirational quotes, their motivational things, their funny things, whatever they are. Every year is different. Self-compassion was one year. And so I'll keep some of those and put those up around my mirror as well. So I can look back even at the date and say, in 2021, this is what I was needing, and so that helps too, as far as a reflection back on how far you've come. I'm like one of my strengths, if you do the strengths finder, the number one for me is input. So I am just listening and reading and absorbing from people, from podcasts, mentors all the time. So that's a big help for me too, and a tool that I use.
That's great. That's great. Do you then take that and apply that to your office, to your team, as far as your leadership approach?
As far as like the daily quotes or the inspiration?
Yeah. Or for them, like a vision board on what your goals are or what that is. How do you apply it to the office?
So that's actually a good question. It'd be a great idea. I mean, we have definitely, like, we had a door in the back in our staff area where we would put motivational quotes and things up and fun pictures of us together. We have our core values posted on the wall. We have once a year, we try to get together and do like a state of the practice and kind of reflect back on what we've done and where we're going. So I do bring some of those strategic planning tools and what I'm learning in coaching, I try to bring to them. Right. Or we do book clubs. So a lot of that personal growth and development trickles out into my team too.
I have to tell you, the kind of patient that it just surprises me so much who's attracted to this is I am friends with an orthodontist who is going through with a professional sports team. I can't say who, I can't say what, but they went through and they were looking to make mouth guards for any of the players who wanted one. And it was amazing to see. This orthodontist was blown away how many of these players, I think it was 2 or 3 on this team, had DIY ortho being done at the time. And so I'm looking at that. It's like, clearly these guys can afford to, to pay for orthodontics, but it was the convenience aspect that they were so interested in. That it was simple, that they didn't have to go in multiple visits to go see the orthodontist. They could clearly be monitored from afar. Like, that's really what they wanted to have happen. And so that opened my eyes to this. I was shocked. This isn't for necessarily people who are looking for a deal. This is people who want convenience and an outcome of just a cosmetic correction.
Scott, it's so true. So, like, our patients, we see them twice. We see them once for a consult and a scan. We explain the process to them. They get excited when we tell them about SDA and about how we're basically seeing them for a virtual appointment every time they put a new set of aligners in. And then we don't see them until the end of treatment, and they're usually happy with everything and ready to be done. So we scan them for a retainer and mail them the retainer. So they're in the office twice. It's super convenient for them. Smile Express is awesome in metropolitan areas, but it's also super convenient for rural areas. In Roanoke, we actually have patients that travel 1.5, 2 hours away to come see us, and they don't want to come in, every 2 months for appointments. So we scan them the first day when they get a set of comprehensive records, and we mail them the aligners. They start their treatment remotely. They're doing the SDA. So we're seeing them for virtual appointments every time they put a new set of aligners in. They respect our time too. So, they want to come in when it's convenient for them. And at 6 months, when they're done, they come back for a final scan and we mail them the retainers. So it works out well for both parties.
Yeah. And I know some are all around the world too. So they'll go on trips all over. Jessica, you had some patients like that as well.
Yeah. I've had patients that, I had a patient actually just on Friday who we started her with Smile Express, and she lives in DC, but she also has a house in New York, and she has a house in South Africa, and then she was also going on a vacation to Europe, and I couldn't keep up with her life and where she was going to be. It sounded awesome, but I was like, totally fine. Take your aligners with you, take your scan box with you, and I'll be able to see you wherever you are. Yeah. And then I can even look on it regardless of where I'm at. I don't need to be in the office or in, Virginia to take a look at my patients too if something comes up, and I can pull up their photos on my phone and look in a different country as well.
Yeah, it's great. We meet the patients where they are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great for kids heading off to college too. We see a lot of Smile Express college kids. And so the parents are thrilled that we can actually get their result back to where they were a few years prior, and they don't even have to come to the office. So it's a win-win for us and for them.
Huge.
It's a accountability part of the scans too. It keeps them on top of things too. So it's especially with a college student, it's they didn't wear the retainer before. Now they're doing the scan. So then it keeps them accountable to make sure that they're getting the result as well. Makes the parents feel better too. So.
Yeah, Scott and Jessica can vouch for this. We treat a lot of the players. We have an office in Ashburn, Virginia. So a lot of the Washington Commander players come in, and it's exactly what you said. They don't have time. So, they were going to pay $3,000 for something, and they're just not educated, right?
Yeah.
So we started treating them, and then one tells the next, and now we have, and we can say this now, we have Jaden Daniels is a Smile Express patient. So, one of the best, definitely the best rookie in the league, and he's got a time crunch, right? We all do as professionals, right. But these guys, they we're in a big metropolitan area, as are many orthodontists, and it's a great service for patients. And the way I look at it is, if these patients are going to be treated elsewhere with no supervision, how can this possibly be a bad thing? It's not. We're using real Invisalign. We're using a different cut of aligners where it moves teeth well without attachments. It's programmed, and we're not going to talk about our preferences with it, but it's programmed to work without attachments before the different aligner cut. So we know what we're doing here. It works. It works just as well as having attachments in many cases, which we're learning more about comprehensive cases because of it, if that makes sense.
And we're doing a comprehensive exam too. So we're seeing the patient clinically. We're evaluating for periodontal disease. We're taking x-rays. So we know everything we're getting into from the get-go, and we can say no to treatment if we feel like it's necessary. But, all these DIY companies, there's no x-rays. They don't check for period.
Right. Totally agree. I mean, as well as if they get something done, let's say they finish, or in mid-treatment, they want to upgrade to comprehensive. They want to address other things. We will allow them to 100% at any time. They can upgrade to comprehensive treatment. So that's one of the big benefits.
Well, we all know the things that we would need to do to make our practice more efficient. Conceptually, it's a matter of how do we implement and do them day in, day out, and get your team so that they're the ones who are driving it and they're the ones who are wanting it. Because if it's just us asking, begging, forcing, it doesn't work. Instead, what's been your approach? So you guys have clearly been successful on this, to get your team to buy in, to be able to drive it that way.
Well, I think the first thing is, one of the benefits, I think, of a partnership is you have a little more courage, if you will, to try new things. I think when you're a sole practitioner, you tend to stay, you know what you know, and you know it works, and you're a little afraid to try new technologies and do new protocols. But having Dan there with me, we were able to come together and say, listen, we may fail in some of these things, but let's be willing to try new things. And I think once we saw the efficiencies that were gained in some of the things we tried, and our team bought into those, they weren't afraid of change any longer. I remember changing to a self-ligating bracket, and that was huge for us, because no longer we have to tie those arch wires in. That was very time consuming. And the only downside was it was called the Damon bracket. And my partner at the time, his wife had thought that here's this guy coming into the practice, and he's changing everything in the practice. He's got his own bracket. And I assured her that it was not my bracket. If it was, I'd be out on the lecture circuit. But it was actually my partner's idea to do the Damon bracket. But that was a time saver. And then when Invisalign came into being, we were one of the first providers in Virginia to get certified to do Invisalign in 1999.
Wow.
I would say we didn't really use it that much, because at that time, all they had was elliptical attachments, and the plastics weren't great. The quality of the results weren't there. So we really didn't use that to its advantage. Now, let's fast forward another 10 years. Dan and I started dabbling more into more class 2 cases, severe crowding, extraction cases, and we became more confident in our own skill set to treat most things with Invisalign. And I think really that change from the analog world to the digital world, from fixed appliances to aligners, has really gained the most efficiency in our practice. We had gaps in our schedule where we never had before, because we weren't seeing as many patients. So that really led to a huge breakthrough.
That's beautiful. I know a lot of practices will often add technology almost as a marketing differentiator, right? But all they end up doing is just adding more and more cost to the cases. not even necessarily even a higher level of service or outcomes for the patient. Dan, how have you approached it so that when you do bring on technology, there's an offset on the P&L, or there's some other advantage? What's your mindset been on that?
Well, first of all, I think any technology that we bring in or we're thinking about bringing in has to be patient-centric. It really does. The dollars are important too. And as Damon said, I am the fact finder. Really like to crunch those numbers to see where the return is on that. But it's got to start with being patient-centric. From there, I think we've always tried to use whatever technology it is, and it's got to be used to the fullest. I think we've always gone all in. We haven't dabbled in certain things. We haven't been afraid to fail. And because of that kind of mindset, that really led to, I think, I would say hyper efficiencies in each of the technologies that we've used. But at the end of the day, if you do that, I think the return on it is going to be improved. You got to have your eye on it. You got to check it out at the end of the day. You got to have the vision to see where we're going with it and what the bottom line is. And in the end, if the patient's happy, the practice is going to be happy, the team is happy. We're going to have a profitable practice as well. So that kind of comes at the end. But I think it all comes from really utilizing everything to the fullest and being an expert in whatever technology it is that we use.
A lot of people will equate efficiency with skipping steps. And that's really not the case at all. Anything that we've employed, whether techniques or if technology, it's always been with the patient in mind and to improve what we are already doing. Josh Adcox talks a lot about doing more with less but better, and that less is in less time and less effort. So yes, you can be efficient and you can still do things better than you ever have. Our quality of treatment today, working less hard, is much better than it ever was in my career.
But there came a day where she just looked at me and said, "I can't do this anymore. And you think we can get out of here?" And I instantly said, "Sure, yeah, done." My practice is just a thing, right? And so at that moment, I made that decision, and that was in 2010. And knowing that we had to relocate, we didn't see ourselves as Northeasterners anymore. It wasn't who we were. The rat race wasn't for us. Good. The West Coast vibe was what we were sort of getting away from, and being that far away from family. And having a Jewish community was important to us. So there weren't a million places that were south of the Mason-Dixon line and sort of east of the Mississippi or near the Mississippi that we could go to. And so we kind of narrowed it down, and we were thinking we'd go to Austin, Texas. And then about 2 weeks after she asked me if we could move, I woke her up in the middle of the night and said, "Honey, I had an idea. I'd like to go back as an orthodontist. It's what I've always wanted to do." And she said, "Can we afford it?" I said, "No, we haven't saved for it." She said, "Okay, go for it." And so I mean, literally, the decision to leave Seattle was like that, and the decision to allow me to apply was like that. And neither one of us gave any pushback. There wasn't like a long conversation over the dinner table. We just knew that what the other one needed, the other one needed. And so applied to 55 schools, got accepted to none. Me and Stu Frost always commiserate about the fact that neither of us ever got accepted on our first try. Right. And then I reapplied and got in the second time through, and the rest is history, so to speak.
That is awesome. And you met some incredible people there.
I did.
Yep. With in your relationship, certainly with Doug at that time.
Best partner ever. One of the greatest human beings I know. My father was burned in his. My father had a couple of partners that really burned him, really, really poorly. And he always says to me, "I always wish I had a partnership like you and Doug have," because I think it works because of two things. Number one, as my friend just said to me not long ago, he says, "Your partnership works, Glenn, because Doug lets Glenn be Glenn," which is true. But I think both of us truly believe that the other person is the better part of the relationship. Like, I honestly, firmly, without any question, Doug is way better part of this partnership than I am. And Doug would tell you the opposite, that I'm the better part, but there's no question that I'm right in this one. He, in fact, is amazing. And I think, without getting too deep into it, I think we love one another. I think we really love each other like brothers. and we respect each other. And I always tell everybody, don't ever get into a partnership because of money. Don't get into a partnership because of convenience. Don't get into a partnership because they have pedo and you have ortho and you're going to corner the market. The only reason you should ever partner, I'm not talking about OSOs, DSOs, which is a different conversation, but the only reason you ever partner with another human being is because you can't imagine living without them in your life professionally. And again, the day is going to come where one of us, Doug or I, says, you know what, I'm hanging it up or I'm walking away. And we're partners in everything, not just ortho, but anything we invest in, we're 50-50 partners. The day that one of us decides to walk away is going to be the most disheartening day of my life.
Yes.
Because unlike a marriage, which is till death do you part,
right.
A business partnership could come to an end one day because maybe you have enough money and you decide I'm going to just work my investments and travel the world and spend time with my family or serve a mission or serve a calling. And for both of us, that to me, if it ever occurs, which I hope it doesn't, will be the saddest day of my life. I'm one of them.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah. So you guys are just incredible partners and people. And yeah, I've watched you guys interact through great times, through challenging times. And it's been inspiring. Yeah. So it hasn't always been easy on your journey for sure. You guys started.
Can I tell you a quick story about that?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Can I tell you a quick story? Here's a little inside story that most people don't know about us. And it's gonna blow your mind, Scott. Yeah. And I know what an open-minded kind of guy you are. I can't imagine that. I think heads are going to explode on the other side of screens around the country. When we first came out of ortho residency and came to Dallas, we'd started a practice. We felt it was in the best interest that I'd be the one to start it because I had experience running a practice and Doug didn't. And so we found this little nestled practice in Castle Hills in Dallas, and I started working it. Doug and I was working corporate 3 to 4 days a week in addition to the 2 days a week I was working the practice. And Doug was working corporate 5 days a week, nonstop, in a just crazy job. In order to support our vision, Doug would take all of his after-tax money and I would take my after-tax money. Remember, I was working 2 days a week, maybe three days a week doing corporate. He was doing 5. We would pool our after-tax money and then split it down the middle. He was giving me after-tax dollars just so that I could pay my bills, so I could support our partnership by working that practice and not be upside down financially. And then when the time came for him to go open our second practice, we reversed roles. And but I mean, you just don't hear of partnerships that work like that, where someone takes after-tax dollars and credit his wife, Rachel, for not being the kind of person who would say, what are you doing? What are you giving money to this guy for? But ultimately, long-term, again, we both believe the other person's the better half of the relationship. And so there's that love there. And but again, nobody knows that story. And how many people do you know that would actually do that? Like when you talk about partnership?
Yeah. No, that is amazing. You guys truly are brother like that. That is awesome.
I was dialed in for a legal profession since as long as I can remember, 12, 13 years old, and in high school in criminal law class and doing mock trials. And in college, I was actually a finance and political science major, and I was really trying to do everything I could to set myself up for that path. I was interning for a United States Senator. I was interning in the North Dakota Supreme Court, and just thought that was the path I was going to be on. Where that was going to lead me in the country, I didn't know, but just knew that I was solely focused towards everything was towards the LSAT and a legal profession. So to be here today and to be doing what I'm doing is, even I have to pinch myself once in a while and say, how in the heck did I wind up here in orthodontics?
I agree with you. I think I've met a lot of attorneys, a lot of medical doctors, and certainly a lot of orthodontists. And I can say, I don't know that I've ever heard an orthodontist say, I wish I hadn't gone to the ortho route. We all love it. It is the best profession in the world. And so, but I have heard quite a few attorneys say, don't go to law school. Don't do this. I don't like what I do. So I'm happy we are where we are. I pinch myself alongside you. This is just a dream come true to do what we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So you were going legal route. You were all geared up for that. And then at what point did that pivot? Tell us about that story. I'm familiar with it. And so I love it when you tell this story. Please share with us.
Right. So I always love telling this story and I like thinking about it because it was such a pivotal point in my life and dealing with all ages, of course, as an orthodontist, but primarily that teenage years where they're starting to think about their future and life and the next 10 years of their life. And so I love thinking about this story and how a real chance interaction changed the entire course of everything I was going to do for the entirety of my life. And I was 21 at the time. I was a junior in college. I was playing Division II tennis. I was, like I said, a finance and political science major. And on my way to law school, taking the LSAT and was literally all that was left was to go to law school. And I had never had orthodontics as a youngster. Didn't grow up in a family of dentists or anything like that. So when I got to college and I was 6 months away from law school, I decided I just really wanted my front teeth a little bit straighter. They're never bad and nothing that my parents ever addressed. But so I'm going to go see the local orthodontist and see if he can fix this before I go to law school. So I went in, got braces, didn't know the orthodontist. Had actually taught tennis to his kids. I've been teaching tennis since I was about 12. So I knew the family, but no relationship with him whatsoever. And I kid you not, I was in there the second appointment in the chair, got the teeth adjusted. And the assistant said to me, she said, "Hey, the doctor would like to see you back in his office." So immediately I get this gut wrenching feeling in my stomach and I'm like, okay, right. Mom, Dad, did you guys not pay the bill on this one? Or was I not wearing my rubber bands? Or what was the story? So I go back there and I sit down and the orthodontist comes in and it's kind of like your teacher, calling you in after school one day.
Right.
And no, even though I was a grown adult at this point, basically 21 years old. And I said to myself, okay, what's going on? And he walks in and he said, tell me about yourself. Who are you? And I said, well, I'm a junior in college and majoring in political science. I'm heading to law school next. And I said, I actually know you have taught your kids tennis a little bit. And he said, yeah, I did a little research on you and I heard a little about you. And the next words were ones that I'll never forget. The conversation went directly this way. No more pleasantries. He said, "Are you smart?" I thought, okay, this is really strange. But I said, "Are you smart?" And I looked at him a little bit dumbfounded. And I said, "No." And he said, "No." And I said, "No, I'm not smart at all." He said, "But somebody told me you were on your way to law school." And I said, "Well, that's true." But I said, "But I'm not smart." I said, "I've just worked very hard. Since the age of 10, I was coaching tennis. I got dropped off in the morning at the indoor tennis courts. My parents picked me up at night. I did my homework between hitting sessions, played with anybody who came through that door, because whatever I did, I always wanted to strive to be the best. Wasn't the best, but wanted to do everything I could in working hard. And that was ingrained in me early." And I said, so I just worked really hard to get to this point that I'm really excited about. And then the next words that he said were that he said, this would be ridiculous if you became a lawyer. He said, "You should be an orthodontist." I said, "Orthodontist?" I said, "I haven't taken a science class since I was about 14 years old in freshman biology in high school." So I said, "Orthodontist?" And he said, "Hear me out." He said, "Hear me out." He said, "I've heard about you. I know you're doing this, that, and the other. And my team has said that you interact with them better than any patient they see come through here." And he said, our whole profession is interacting with people. And he said, "Man, if you were reading and writing," he said, "I'm sure you're great at that." But he said, "I think you would be missing this talent that I can already tell you have." And so long story short, I said to him, we went to lunch the next day and I said, "Okay, here's what I'll do." I said, I've really loved being in this office, even though I've only been here for a couple months. And I had plenty of friends who went through braces and I saw what it did for them. I said, I would like to shadow you every waking moment I get for the next 6 months. And while I'm doing that, I'm even going to jump all in right away. And I'm going to keep my finance and poli-sci major, but I'm going to sign up for every science I can that's going to get me towards dental school in the next 18 months. And I said, we'll see. If it doesn't work out, or you find out that I'm not who you thought, or that I'm just not cut out for this and I can't pass freshman biology being a senior in all these classes with 18-year-olds, then no big deal. I'm going to defer law school for a year, so I have that in my back pocket, and I'll go down that route. And And we spent every waking moment I spent in the office. And what I saw was love for people from that orthodontist, love for his team, and love for what the specialty of orthodontics does for people, because that gave me this feeling that I wasn't sure that I could get as an attorney. And that completely shifted everything I was going to do. And again, long story short, 10 years later, was an orthodontist back home in my hometown of Bismarck. So it was a really meaningful moment for me, and it led me to realize how powerful one person's influence can be over your life, and how important mentorship is in your life. Because if that orthodontist had been having a bad day, or had to get to his kid's baseball game that night, or anything like that, if those confluence of things had happened that day, he would never have called me back that day, would have forgot about it the next time I'm in. I'd have been an attorney and probably living somewhere else in the country, and nothing that transpired in my life would have happened. So when we have kids come through the office to shadow it, as you have, Scott, hundreds of times to follow you, and it's tough. You're busy with patients, and they're over your shoulder and things like that. I always think back to that chance encounter, and if that guy hadn't taken those 5 minutes, my entire life would have been different. And I think, wow, what a power we have as people, not just as orthodontists, but we as people have to influence the lives of others. And I always encourage my staff, like, in whatever you're doing in life, when you get the chance to influence someone, take that opportunity, because you never know what it's going to mean to them. And to me, it meant the entire difference in finding my family and finding my life and finding my person.
Those were just a few moments from a year full of thoughtful conversations. What stands out to me is often how the biggest insights didn't come from technology or tactics, but people choosing to reflect, to grow, and to lead with intention. So thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing these. Thanks for being a part of the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast. We're grateful for the conversations in the past and those that are behind us, and we are excited for what is ahead. We'll see you next time. Thanks.